Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, get yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wine Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This week, we will be discussing Bangtan Soyeon, also known as BTS, and their amazing album, B. But first, let's get to the wine down. Tammy, we're going to start this week with our ESPN sports report. And only because we should probably file this under things that Rona has fucked up yet again. So the Denver Broncos, they had to reschedule their game at the last minute because all three of their quarterbacks came down with the Rona. And it was, the thing on Twitter was, I know it's not funny, and I hope that they're going to be okay, but everybody, I was giving you that relief. So far, the word
it is not funny, but it is. But it's not.
So far, they're going to be okay. So let's get that out of the way.
Yes, they are.
But the thing on Twitter was everybody's like, "Well, Colin Kaepernick is out there to be signed." Colin Kaepernick. You think if you're down to no quarterback, like they were even going to try to get one of their offensive coaches. They tried to get a waiver from the NFL to allow one of their offensive coaches to play quarterback.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's
and
ridiculous.
The NFL denied it, and everybody's like, "But Kaepernick, fools! But Kaepernick."
Right. So how is the NFL going to deny it when I feel like this is partly the NFL's fault because y'all do not have the restrictions that you should have? Why are your players, after so many cases, why are your players not in a bubble? Why are they not in a bubble?
They should have been in a bubble to begin with. They really should have. And like Lamar Jackson, who plays for the Baltimore Ravens, he's their quarterback, star quarterback. The Ravens have 19 players and counting. When it was announced a few days ago that Lamar Jackson had the Rona, it was like 12, and steadily the number has just kept going up. Because
they're still playing like it's a regular day in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and so San Francisco, the Niners are upset because they're going to actually have to find a new home because the city of San Francisco has ruled out all contact sports for the time being. So I don't know how this is going to work when the Warriors come back, because believe it or not, the NBA is coming back in a couple of weeks. They're going to start their preseason in
at
December.
At the same time they normally would have? Is that what you're saying?
No, the season would have already been started right now. The regular season would have started in October. So they would be, I guess, the first quarter of the way through the season. But because they had the bubble restart and they just ended in October when they would have been starting over again, they rushed to get back. But this time, they're not going to have a bubble because they're going to have all of their teams playing. But I think the NBA has been on point. So I'm thinking they're still going to take some really hefty safety precautions. And the Warriors had wanted to have like 50% capacity in their stadium. And the city of San Francisco was like, oh, hell no. But now that you have no contact, even though technically basketball is not a contact sport, we do know that there is contact in basketball. So I don't know if that's going to affect them any. So we will just see how sports keep chugging along in this Corona time. I love how everyone wants to just get back to normal and pretend like we're not in the middle of a fucking global pandemic that's getting worse. But hey.
Fucking Rona. That's all I'm saying.
Fucking Rona, yes. Now, something rare happened this week. Dave Chapelle made a request of a network, and they actually honored it. Would Netflix be considered a network?
Can I just say, great minds think alike? Because I was just thinking that, like, is Netflix actually a network? Because I feel like they still consider themselves to be a streaming service.
Yeah, like, is Netflix a network now? A streaming network? Like, we're going to have to look that up. And I want money if y'all take my idea, Netflix, and start calling yourselves a network. You heard it here first. But Dave Chappelle, the creator of the ingenious Chappelle Show, and everyone was so upset when he left early. You know, there's all these rumors about him having a nervous breakdown, all this kind of stuff. And he explained it. It came down to money. And CBS and Viacom, who owned the rights to the show, they have recently sold it into syndication. So Netflix was one of the networks or services that picked it up. I can't remember the other one. And I kind of remember Chappelle talking about this when he hosted Saturday Night Live after the election. It was in his monologue, and he was a little upset because he was like, well, they didn't ask him. And he made a joke about how he's like, I'm the only one that's not making money off my show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, he has one of the richest deals with Netflix because they have the exclusive rights to his comedy shows. And so he went to Netflix and they pulled the show after a conversation with him. And so that, like, wow. I have to say, I'm gaining more respect for Netflix. They seem to try, in a lot of cases, to take care of their people or do the right thing more often than not. Although I still need a word on my Woo Assassins.
Yo, can I just say on that note that talking to my sister, you know, over break, and she also brought that up, and I was just like, I forgot that you're a fan of Woo Assassin. She was just like, yeah, I need Netflix to renew Woo Assassin and give me my second season. I said, Eddie says that all the time. So you and my sister are on the same boat.
Yeah, I'm gonna need y'all to do something. Y'all did right by Chappelle, damn it, do right by Woo Assassin. So, you know, and it reminded me of a conversation we had last week, and it just goes back to the whole Taylor Swift and her masters thing. Love her or hate her, I totally agree with her in the fight of her masters. She produced most of all the songs, and it's a shame that she doesn't have complete ownership over her stuff. And so sometimes this industry, you'll make money off of us, but be damned if we try to make money off of ourselves, or we want our fair share off of our creativity. So yeah, you know.
And I will say that I will change my opinion of that, because I know when we talked about it, I was kind of very nonchalant, but when you gave me more details, just because I'm not you know, I'm not really that much of a fan of Taylor Swift, so I really could care less. But when you did give me more details of it, and when we were talking about other artists that are having the same issue, yeah, I'm on Taylor Swift's side now. like what is his name? Scooter Braun?
Yeah.
Asshole.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm just gonna say we got to make sure artists, especially Black artists, women, minorities, people of color, we got to make sure that we have some type of ownership rights over our stuff and not just sign it away. Michaela Cole is a great example of that, and the list could go on and on, but I'm all about the people having a stake in the stuff that they make in their own intellectual property. So moving on, this next one, it gets me. I don't know if I'm middle of the road. My opinion on this changes every time we talk about it. But Johnny Depp has officially been replaced as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts series. Mads Mikkelsen is replacing him. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, or I may have put it on the website. Plug popcornwinedown.com. We still need a sound effect. We still need a sound effect. We'll work over that on the holidays. But Mads Mikkelsen was at the top of the list to replace him, and he's officially going to replace Depp as Grindelwald. I can see that. I think he would make a good Grindelwald. Mads Mikkelsen is a great actor, a great character actor. He has that villain thing down, kind of, you know, so we'll see how that goes. So we know Johnny Depp's career is on ice right now. I don't know if this would be something in this age that he'll be able to recover from. But when all of this started, there was a petition that people circulated to also get Amber Heard removed from Aquaman 2. And recently, with all of the Depp news, they have re-upped that petition, and it's now up to 1.5 million signatures that she should be removed.
1.5 million. She needs to be replaced. Bye-bye. And you know how huge of a fan. I'm a DC fan. Aquaman, and I will say that she was good in the first movie. Like, I enjoyed her playing Mirror in the first movie. But with all of this controversy, why is Johnny Depp the only one that is suffering consequences? I feel no, you can replace her. There are loads more actresses that can sport a red wig as Mirror on Aquaman 2. Replace her.
A horrible red wig. Well, technically she's seen as the victim. And I guess, even though it was a civil suit, he still lost, and she was portrayed in that case as the victim.
In America, we don't see her as that way. So, bye-bye.
Yeah. Like I said, I have the whole thing just gives me mixed feelings.
It's so weird. It's like off the charts. Like like I agree with you. Yeah.
It's off the charts weird. Should she lose her job for being victimized? But then, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And I'm not saying that they did not have an abusive, toxic relationship. No matter what you take from it, that relationship was abusive, at the very least, mentally and emotionally, and toxic and dysfunctional as fuck.
She cut his finger off.
So yeah.
I think it's both sides, and that's the reason why I think both sides. It's both sides. Like, not saying that I'm sure she, there were moments where she was abused mentally, however it goes, because we don't know their business. We weren't in their home, but at the same time, you can tell it was on both sides. She gave as much as she. That's the wrong word. I don't want to say that. She gave and he gave as well. Like it was back and forth. And so I feel, why is he the only one fully suffering the destruction of his career? And she's quietly going to sail by and still get all that money for Aquaman 2? I'm sorry. No.
I'm going to put on my Tammy sociology hat right here. And I'm going to say, and this is a conversation I was having a couple of weeks ago. We don't like to think of women as abusers. In the whole Me Too movement and all of that, we don't like to think that women can actually be the perpetrate that type of violence and that type of,
which goes back to sexism in a way.
Yeah, we don't like to think of that as women being able to sexually harass and to abuse men, and that somehow it makes men seem weak to be considered victims of that or to allow that to happen, and women we're these horrible bullies or whatever. So I think that's part of it. Like I said, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. They fucked up each other pretty badly, and I say she should be removed just because she's not a great actress, but that's just me.
That too. Touché.
On that note, if there's a reason to remove Amber Heard, her personal life probably shouldn't have anything to do with it. Just her acting skills alone.
But then, is that really the case if Johnny Depp was fired because of his personal life, not because he can't act, because he is a great actor?
He's a hell of an actor, yeah. And it goes back to that double standard. But again, in a court of law, even though it was not a criminal case, and that's what I keep harping on, it wasn't a criminal suit. Because if you want to go back to criminal suits that aren't really any indication of vindication, OJ, well,
Moving on.
Let's just, So you get where I'm trying to go with all this, I do. Right? Okay. All right. So anyway, moving on to another one of our favorites. We're going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about Bangtan a little bit later. So, GOT7. We are just hours away from their comeback, I don't even know if I can call it a comeback, because technically you think the comeback would have started with the release of their amazing new single, Breath. We got a few teasers, and the teasers were great, but I feel like I'm with the hot guy who keeps taking off his shirt, who gets butt naked and says, "Look, baby, but don't touch."
Yes.
I don't even know if I can call this a comeback, because the song itself is great, but you've heard nothing about it.
And I know this performance of it whatsoever in the week that it's been released.
No performance, no video hypes, like, and of course BTS is BTS. So I can't, and I learned with GOT7 not to compare them to BTS. I'm not doing that here. They're both amazing in their own right. But
no, compare them to twice. Compare them to twice. Yeah. Twice performed for the whole week after their CD was premiered. They performed at all of the music shows, repeated over and over again after they premiered.
Exactly. And we know that, okay, we're doing things virtually now. And that's what I expected. Not like the BTS machine where they're on every single thing internationally, all that. No. But just regular K-pop. Even Blackpink, once their song came out, before the album came out, you heard, oh, this is our song. The album's releasing here. Or even here in America, when you have a song come out and you know the album is coming, you're on the shows, you're doing this, you're doing that. Where the fuck has GOT7 been? Like, even the AAA Asian Artist Awards were this week. And I was excited, you know, NCT and their 1,000 members performed. Okay. And, you know, I love me some NCTU because I love Lucas. And, you know, all these other groups performed. And so I was surprised when I saw GOT7. I was so surprised and I was so happy. I was thinking I was going, and that's why I didn't even bother to send you the link or text you about it or whatever. I was like, yay, we get our first performance of Breath. They performed 2 random ass songs. And I'm
from their last comeback.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, and at first I thought, oh, is this just something that's been recently uploaded and not new? And I'm like, no, this shit was from this weekend. So I was like, what the fuck? They have a new song. Like, I've heard Dynamite a million times before B came out.
1,000,001 times.
And it was just like, you know, even with Blackpink, and you heard Ice Cream 1,000 times before the album, still the worst name ever, came out. And it's like, y'all can't even give me one performance of Breath. Like, and I don't blame GOT7. I blame their shitty ass company.
JYPE.
I blame their shitty ass managers. But I'm like, how do you have a group that's this fucking popular and you treat them like crap? Like, I can't even call this a comeback. I don't know what to call it.
And what it does is, the one thing that this does is that it lowers their visibility. It lowers them having a successful premiere, because I was telling you earlier how their music video for Breath is not getting as much views as Not by the Moon, which was their last major single to come out around the same time last year. And it's not getting the views that it should. And I blame that on the fact of their visibility. Like, they're not, you posting a couple of pictures of them, that's great. And I really appreciate that. But come on, they should be in my face 24/7, and they're not.
Excuse me, that is so true. Like, the video is amazing, and you got a few teasers. Now, I did hear they had a teaser for the whole album, which is like a 3-minute teaser where they played clips of the songs. And I will say that it sounded okay, but, you know, just like I said, from a 30-second clip, you really can't make a decision about what's what. But I'm like, okay, we really haven't seen them. Like, they have, just like everyone else who released an album at the beginning of the year, they really haven't been able to pub it, which I think was shit, because once we figured out the whole virtual performance thing, you should have had GOT7 performing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And, you know, so I don't know what I can't. I can't with JYPE.
But we do have
and the way they treat.
We do have some good news though about them, because even with the horrible treatment of GOT7, they're still winning awards. So they're still popular, and they're still, you know, their fans are still there, of course. But, you know, so I guess the fans just got to keep it up, because JYPE ain't gonna do nothing for you.
No, they're not. And speaking of letdowns, so let's start with the good news first. The Grammys. the Grammy nominations were out, came out this week, and BTS received their first Grammy nomination. So happy. Congratulations, Fang Fang. Megan Thee Stallion, she is a quadruple first-time nominee. She got 4 noms. Congrats, Megan Thee Stallion. Love her. You know, so, and Chica, who I also love, she was nominated. So and Beyonce, she led the pack. She leads the pack with 9 nominations. Women totally dominated 2 male-centered categories, country and rock. Totally. Every nominee in those categories, I think it was best country performance or something, or best country song or something like that. For the same thing for, I think it's alternative rock or something like that, they were all women. So big ups to the women. You know, they're trying to give Taylor Swift a makeup nod, although I love folklore. I must admit, it's amazing. I know you feel differently about it, but they finally recognized her for Album of the Year when they totally ignored Reputation, which was great. Lover, I wasn't a fan of Lover. But, so we've talked about, those are the Grammy noms. Again, congrats to BTS. Can't understate how significant that is, just because, you know, first Korean group ever to be nominated for a Grammy. Great. But can you tell me what the fuck they were thinking when it came to the Weeknd? Homeboy did not get one single nomination.
And even Elton John called out the Academy, the Grammys, for the fact that they snubbed the Weeknd. Like, he even called them out on Twitter, because he was just like, what the heck is going on? Not Twitter, on Instagram. He was like, what the heck is going on?
Like, yo, can I tell you, the Weeknd is like fine wine. Like, I loved him even when he was underground. Like, I first heard him, I think I first paid attention when he was on Crew Love with Drake. And then when no one still knew who he was, and he released the trilogy, beautiful, great. And to me, he's just like fine wine. He just gets better. Each album is just better and better better than the last.
I definitely agree.
And his creativity. And so I'm like, and I was excited because his was one of the first post-Rona quarantine albums when, like, we really hadn't had shit figured out, and people were like, do we stop? The world is stopped, so do we just completely stop? How long is this gonna last? And I remember listening to the album, and it was one of those that was it was just on repeat. Like, I would just put it on repeat. And I'm like, you know, song after song has been a hit. It's hit the Billboard charts, all of it, and not one nomination. Now, the really fucked up part about that is that the Grammys, they're really possessive of their artists. I think they even moved their performers. They moved the American Music Awards back, because the Grammys, it used to be that if you performed on the American Music Awards, you would not be invited to perform on the Grammys. Like, that was their rule. So when it was announced that he was performing the Super Bowl halftime show, the Grammys were big time pissed. And so they had this tense negotiation to where he was going to perform on the Grammys. So, dude, you went through these tense negotiations to get him to perform on the Grammys, and then you don't nominate him for an award? So, you know, the Weeknd's like, nah, I figured, I took that as a disinvite. Like, I was disinvited.
He was just like, I thought no nominations equal no invite.
Like, no performance. And I can't even say that I'm mad about it.
Nah, he did good. Be shady as fuck.
And as much as I love BTS and I'm excited for their nomination, they still got snubbed. Like,
did they really? We're gonna talk about that later.
Yes.
Okay.
We can talk about it later when we talk about BTS more. But yes, they did get snubbed. Halsey got snubbed. Who else? Kalani. She should shout out to Jhené Aiko, since I'm mentioning Kalani. Jhené Aiko was nominated. She did great. She's up for Album of the Year. Love her album. but Kalani should have been nominated at least for Best R&B Album or Alternative R&B or whatever. Her album, it was good until it wasn't. It's great. But Justin Bieber even called out the Grammys. He was like, look, I appreciate the fact that I was nominated, but Changes, y'all put it in best pop category, maybe because I'm white, but he's like, Changes is actually an R&B album. And after I read that, I had to go back and listen. And Justin Bieber's always been one of those blue-eyed soul singers whose music, whose sound has always leaned more towards the R&B side. So I actually went back and I listened to Changes again, and I'm like, Bieber's right. It's an R&B album. Like, and I was just like, they get it wrong. Every year they seem to get worse and worse. Every year they seem to fuck up more and more. I get it. Not everybody can be nominated for everything. There are inevitably going to be some people who are left off the list. But what they did to The Weeknd, that's fucking egregious. Like, I'm calling it Trump right now. They need to throw this out and start over.
Wait, okay. So for the Grammys voting, is it kind of like the Oscars?
The Oscars is more industry people. Like, there's a board. I don't think musicians actually have a big say. Like the Oscars, the actors, the writers, the directors, the producers, they're all put into like this Oscar pool, and they watch the movies. They'll send it out. Like people like Ava DuVernay, Leonardo DiCaprio, they get sent movies and things, and they vote. So they're the members of the Academy.
So for the Grammys, it's just like is it like studio? It's like studio people or? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's studio people. I don't think it's like where musicians get a bigger say in it. I would have to look that up more, but I know that, the Oscars is somewhat more done by your peers. Like your peers have a bigger say in the Oscar voting.
Okay.
But the Grammys, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I know. I'm like, fuck. Now, do I even want to watch? But of course, I'm going to watch because of BTS. And, they were so excited. They were like, ooh, are we going to the Grammys? We're actually going to go to the Grammys. I'm like,
they're going to perform.
Your asses at. Yeah, I know they're going to perform. So they finally get their performance stage. But I'm like, y'all might need to do that virtually. Because shit here in the U.S. is pretty bad with the Rona. And by February, I don't know. We'll see. But, So that, I think, does it for the wind down. I've vented. I think I need a wine break. I need to go clear my mind.
I let you go, but it was great though. It was good.
You did. So we will be right back after this wine break, and we will talk about BTS and B and life going on. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your wine break. Now we are going to talk about BTS and B and life going on. Tammy, I'm going to start with you since I felt like I dominated that Grammy conversation. What did you think about the album?
I loved it. I loved most of the songs. I thought it was very mature, very grown, very international of BTS, like showing that they're not just going to be a regular K-pop group, like they're trying to go beyond K-pop. And that's the feeling that I got with this album B. And it was like hearing men instead of boys. Like they've grown. And sometimes that doesn't happen in K-pop with certain groups that you listen to. Their sound kind of stays the same because that's what made them famous. But with BTS, like, they slowly progressed, and I loved it. Like, just like Map of the Soul 7 was great. I definitely think B is showing that they're changing directions, and I like their direction that they're going in. So it was good. It was good. What about you?
I like it. I think we can call this the evolution of BTS, or the beginning of the evolution. Just piggybacking off of what you said, there was an interview in RM. Everyone is always saying BTS needs to make this type of album. BTS needs to make this type of album. And I think someone specifically asked him, what is BTS's sound? And he said, we're just BTS. We go with whatever we feel at the time. He's like, I don't think you can define our sound. And that's true. If you go back, none of their albums really sound the same. And I do like the maturity of this album. And it was an emotional roller coaster. And I'm going to be honest, I went into it with low expectations. And the reason why I say that is because I did not want to like it just because it was BTS, if that makes sense. So I went in fully prepared to not like it, or to not like it as much as I did. And from the first, when I heard Life Goes On, because they did something, the single, the album, everything was all dropped at the same time. Like, you know, there wasn't really a gap between them dropping everything. And so when I heard Life Goes On to listening to the whole album, I was like, wow. And I have to admit, it's been on repeat pretty much the whole entire week. And it takes you through the emotions of 2020. Even the fast songs, you kind of like, it's masking what's underneath. And then when you go read the words, it's like, yeah, the bullshit is still there. The pain and trauma of this whole year and everything that everyone is going through is still there. And I must say, I really enjoyed it. Speaking of Map of the Soul, which do you like better?
B.
I agree.
So what I will disagree with you a little bit on stating that like every single like CD has had a different sound. I think that their sound has slowly progressed, but it's been a slow progression. And so, because I think Map of the Soul still had like some of the sounds of when they did Persona, but at the same time, like that's when they were really starting the grown aspects, like being more grown and more mature sound that they're now coming out with. And I think B is just an addition to that progression of them. They got goals, and I think that B is a goal that they had, and they're showing that, well, of course they've achieved every single goal that they've had, but although I love Map of the Soul, I do like it. I think that B is more on par with what I normally like. Like, I feel like I'm going to say this wrong, and please don't kill me, Army. Please don't kill me. But I feel like one of the goals that BTS has is American domination. They want to dominate in the American music industry. And I think B gave me that feel of them getting on that path towards becoming a household name in the American music industry. Not just with ARMY, but just getting respect across the industry as a whole, and being the first group to do that from South Korea. And I think B is a great step towards that goal that they have.
I agree. But I also like how they're doing it, but still staying true to who they are, to their sound, to their K-pop roots. I love Dynamite, and I'm one of those who say that they should pull a Monster X and just release an all English album, not be completely, and not make that their thing from all, but just as part of their sound. Like,
if they want to dominate American industry, they're gonna have to.
Yeah, but and they can still do that and be K-pop and still be true to their K-pop roots and go back to singing, go back to singing in Korean or Koreanglish, because a lot of K-pop, a lot of the words are in English. It's like a mix, some of it. But I agree. I do think this is the grown and sexy BTS. I do think that they are changing from boys to men. And since, with the exception of Jungkook, who's 23? He just turned 23, right? They're all about to be in their mid-20s.
Well, they are in their mid-20s because Jimin and V are 25. So JK is the only one who's in his early 20s still.
Yeah, V's not. Well, yeah, V will be 25.
Well, he'll be 25
in a month.
This month coming up.
Yeah. So, and then if you go by the confusing Korean date, then they're all a year older anyway, which we won't get into that. But, so, and that's one of the things I do like is that they are growing up, and that they are evolving, and that, I'm glad that ARMY is allowing that to happen, because with a lot of groups, especially quote unquote boy bands, you find that their fans don't want them to grow up, don't allow them to change and to grow and to evolve, their sounds to evolve. It's like, oh, we still want you to be those cute 15-year-olds and sing about those things that you sang about back then. And so I'm glad that this has happened. But in comparison to Map of the Soul 7, do you think B will be as popular? Because even though Map of the Soul 7 didn't get a lot of pub, it was still a very popular album.
Okay, so my answer would be no to that, right? And I just think it's across the board with COVID kind of just jacking up like everything, because looking at the first week sales, Map of the Soul 7 sold 3.4 million CDs in its first week after its release, right? B only sold 2.3 million. So that's a whole million less than Map of the Soul 7.
And give it is a whole million less, and I love that. But and I understand that, but I think by and I'm gonna say it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges, not in the difference of the sound, but just in the difference of the times. It's hard to believe that Map of the Soul 7 just came out February of this year, and we're still in 2020. It seems like we're going on the 10th year of 2020. But people when Map of the Soul 7 came out, people were gainfully employed. So, and
I get that, but you asked, if it's going to be as popular, and I would say it's not going to be as popular and granted, not to say that they're not going to achieve greatness with B, and they're not going to continue to break records or set records, because they already set another record of music shows wins from last week with the album B. So not saying that they're not going to continue to set records, but if we're looking at the popularity of it, and I think it's kind of, maybe it's slowing down because it's near the holidays, but the life goes on took 2 days before it got to 100 million views.
Yeah.
And how long did it take Dynamite?
It took Dynamite less than a day, but
yeah.
And I was looking at that, and I also think, Dynamite was something different because it wasn't all English, and it goes back to that people were more anticipating it, and I think even a casual BTS fan, I think they even jumped on board for Dynamite. Speaking of casual BTS,
I mean, Dynamite was strategically released, so I guess their strategy worked.
But so breaking down the album as a whole, what is your favorite song? What was your favorite song?
Okay, so I have a couple. Mm-hmm. So my favorite songs is, of course, Life Goes On. Like, I love the beat at the very beginning. The music video just makes me love it even more on how...
Which one? I'm sorry, they released
the original. Okay, so I'll be honest. I'm one of those people, I'm never really a fan of the additional videos. Like, I feel like every day you're coming out with another one and you're in the same clothes. Like, you just have a different background. So I'm only talking about the original one. Now, of course, I like the newest one that they came out with, Like an Arrow, I think it's called. With the pictures.
The black and white pictures.
Because it's so airy, right? It's so airy of just the it just made me feel so much emotions and feelings watching it. Because the pictures remind me of, these are the pictures that people would have taken if there was a concert. And that's what kind of like really like hit me hard, is that like this, if this was like a regular time and not COVID time, some of these pictures would be taken during their concert, right? During their tour that they would be doing for B. And, so that's a sad thing. But the original, I like the music video for the original. the original music video for Life Goes On. I loved Life Goes On. Like, I think that it really summed up COVID. Like, we just gotta kind of keep pushing and keep like going. And then my favorite line was like an echo in the forest. And I was just like, that just hit me so hard. Like, every time Jimin sings that, I'm just like, damn. Like, that's a deep line or a deep lyric of the song.
Yeah, like it's the perfect lead off song. It really is. And even though the world stopped, like I said, it's hard to believe that this month, first of all, it's hard to believe that this year is almost finally over and that we all survived, knock on some wood, thankfully. And, you know, just, this has been, you know how I feel about this year, and I've said it all. Psychiatrists are going to be the richest people after this is all said and done, if we all do what we should do, and that is go seek some mental help, because none of us are coming out of this.
We won't.
We won't. But all of us are coming out of this shit with some form of PTSD. And so, but my favorite line is probably the first verse, where he says, Jungkook says, "One day the world stopped without any warning. Spring didn't know to wait, showed up not even a minute late." Like, and that's so true. Like, especially that first few weeks of quarantine, you remember thinking, oh, okay, we get an extra week off of work, or we have here. And then as it keeps going on, and it's just like, oh my God, you know, we had this trip planned for your birthday, which was 2 months after quarantine. And it's like, damn, this is the week we would have been on our trip. Yeah. Or my birthday came and I'm like, this would have been my birthday, or this would have been this, or this was the 4th of July. And it's just like, but it just doesn't seem like that. Like, I'm still waiting for it to seem like Christmas, you know? So yeah, but life, yeah. And I also like the pajama party video for Life Goes On. So
yeah, but it was very, I felt that's one thing I love about the album in general. Like, I know, like, you know, there's certain songs that really made me feel it. But the album was very comforting. Majority of the songs on the album were even the upbeat songs were very comforting. Like, I could just lay in my room and close my blinds and just listen to this album and just feel comforted, you know? Like, it's what they said they did the album for. Like, they did the album for their fans because they know everybody's going through a hard time, including them. And that's how some of the songs came about. And so, and that's how I felt, like, listening to the album over and over again, driving in my car and I'm listening to it. And I was just like, yeah, like, this is shitty, but it was a great album to come up. Everybody else, I felt like their albums that are coming out is kind of like business as usual. BTS made an album for the times, and that's great. They made an album for the times, and I love that about them.
Okay, and what was your other? I agree. I can't disagree with that. I think it is an album very.
I feel like I'm like getting into like my.
I loved it for 2020. Now, I was just thinking about another album that I love that we won't talk about. But anyway, this is all BTS. So, what was your other song?
Okay, so my next 3 songs, I'm just gonna say, "Fly to My Room." I
love it.
Love. And then when I read, there was an article where they interviewed J-Hope for Weverse magazine, and he was talking about why he wrote the song. And he, like, the description that he made of just kind of saying on him just being in his room or really not having anywhere to go, you know, that's kind of like, he was just like, but the world is still there. And so Fly to My Room, he said, was kind of like the song where you can still do stuff. Like, you can still do stuff even if you're stuck at home. And that's what he made the song for. But I love Fly to My Room. Oh my God, I love Jimin's voice. I know when we first talked, I was just like, I don't know. But this CD also gave me an appreciation for Jimin for his vocals.
We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to say something that you might think is kind of controversial, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
But I think that I really appreciated his vocals on the whole CD. Every song that I listened to on the CD, and we'll talk about the 2 songs that I kind of muted. But on the CD, I really appreciated his voice. It gave me an appreciation for Jimin. Also, another 2 songs is also Fly to My Room is a subunit, right? So I just love the fact that it was Suga, V, J-Hope, and Jimin. And then Telepathy kind of snuck up on me actually liking it. Nobody's talking about Telepathy, but I really like that song. And then Stay, which is the other subunit song with RM, Jin, and JK. And so those were my favorite songs on the album. I listened to them over and over again. They're on repeat, and they just comfort me so much during these times. Like, it keeps me out of my like depressive mode that you can definitely get into because of the fact that we're basically stuck at home and we're not able to socialize as much as we normally would. But anyway,
I'm gonna have to agree mostly.
I was just about to say, like, what are your favorites?
Honestly, it depends on the mood I'm in when I'm listening to it, and it depends on just the day. But the ones that stood out to me when I first listened were Life Goes On, Fly to My Room, Stay. I love them all. I love the whole, and I found myself that this is one of those albums. This is one of those rare albums that you find yourself listening to and you don't fast forward. And I have a trick to see and I told you, I went into this album with low expectations, or trying to not be biased because I love BTS and just be one of those people that, this is BTS, I have to love it. And I knew that we were going to be talking about it like this. So I really wanted to have that critical ear for it. So what I do is I will put an album on shuffle mode, and I will listen to it out of order. And if I can still say that I love a song even out of order just because I love the song, and if I can listen to an album out of order and still like it, then I know it's a good album. And that's what I did to this. And even the skit doesn't necessarily drive me crazy because I actually went and looked up what they were talking about. And I remember it's when they found out that Dynamite had gone #1 on JK's birthday and all that. So that's what the skit is about.
Oh, can we pause real quick and talk about that? So there's two songs that I completely put on mute on my Spotify list. So one of them was Dynamite, because I am going to be honest and say that I've heard Dynamite so friggin' much since they released it in August that I don't need to hear it for the near future, okay? So yeah, I put Dynamite on mute because I already know how it sounds. And I put the skit on mute. And the reason why I did that is because I don't speak Korean. And I'm gonna be honest, like, they'd be like, oh no, you should say, like, I ain't looking up nothing. And I knew I wasn't gonna look it up. I don't need, like, I wasn't gonna look it up. Like, if you want me to like know that, post a video for me to watch. But like, yeah, so I skipped the skit because I don't speak Korean, and then I skipped Dynamite. Those were the 2 that never played for me when I was playing the CD. Like, I was acting like they were not a part of the CD at all.
Yeah, but I would have to say the one that just gets me, the one that can bring, if I let it, the one that can really just
talk about it? You about to say it?
Is Blue and Gray.
Mm-hmm.
It was written by V, and it was and co-produced. It was written by V, and it was co-written and co-produced by another one of my favorite Korean artists, Nive, who's more or less like a Korean, who's more or less in the indie scene in Korea, more along the lines of Sam Kim. And but that song is just haunting. Like, I don't know. It does something. So, and I love it. And it seems to be one of the Fly to My Room, Blue and Gray, and Life Goes On. Those seem to be the 3 most popular from the album that people are talking about the most. But what I was also going to say is that this, to me, was the coming out party for 2 members in particular in BTS. They always say that during a comeback era, one member of the group seems to shine, or a couple members of the group. to me, the two that seemed to shine the most for this one was Jimin and V. Like, they really seem to be the ones who grew up and came into their own. I don't know if it's with the responsibility they took, their roles for the album. I don't know what it is, but those are the two. And Jimin's voice really does stand out on every song that he's in. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, sure. No. I will. It's surprising because I thought you were going to say JK since he was director, but I don't. I was going to disagree with you with that one. I do think that V is coming more into his own. I think it's partly on age, on the fact of saying that he's about to be 25, and I think like he's taking more responsibility as an adult, because they spend a lot of time like kind of not being an adult, if that makes any sense.
They spend a lot of time being the 95ers.
Yeah, no. I mean, just in general in the Korean culture, like, it takes them a minute before they're full like adult. Like, you know how we're kind of kicked out at like 18, 19, like, okay, go to college and get your life together. But you know, because it's more close knit in South Korea, I think they get more time to kind of just be and discover who they are, while I felt like I was kind of thrown out there and I had to figure out who I was in my early 20s, and I really didn't figure out who I was until my 30s, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
I was gonna say, congratulations. What's the secret? Because I'm still trying to figure that shit out.
Trying to figure it out. But they get a longer time really being able to figure it out in a bubble. And I don't think in America we get as much time to figure ourselves out in a bubble. And I think that bubble has been burst for V and Jimin, and they are showing us who they are, and they are amazing people. I will say that. But yeah, so Jimin, V, definitely. But another person that I would say doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, but really had a hand in this as well, although he never takes credit, is J-Hope. Like him writing Dis-Ease and also writing Fly to My Room and just talking about the process that he had. I didn't realize he was as much in the background as he is. Like, I know RM is, and I know Sugar is a lot. But he kind of gets sidestepped, like, on how much of a role he plays behind the scenes in, like, their CDs and, you know, everything like that. So I will definitely say, like, he deserves more credit than he's going to get. Like, of course, the Magne line is going to get all the credit because, you know, they're the youngest ones. But I do think that J-Hope should get some credit as well, because he did a great job for his role on the CD.
Well, he's the producers of all the songs, and I think he does. And J-Hope is quietly the glue that holds that group together.
Yes,
like,
it's the appreciation.
I think he does, and I think
from his members he does. I don't think he does from the public as much.
Well, he doesn't, and I also think he's okay with just doing the quiet things. Like, you know, he's the quiet one, but he's the hope. But, you know, so
because he knows he's appreciated by the people who he loves, and I think he's okay. But what I realized in some interviews that they did before B came out was that he was also affected by all of this, but it was kind of like there was not as much worry for him as there was for like other members, but he'll survive. He's good. He's the sunshine. He's cool.
Okay, so we have what has been your favorite performance, comeback performance?
Can I first make my comment about Blue and Gray?
Oh, yes.
Let me make my comment about Blue and Gray. So we know when we talked, and I automatically messaged you and told you that Blue and Gray was my least favorite song on the whole entire CD, and not including Dynamite. Like, you know, Dynamite is Dynamite. But what I do want to say is, because I kind of want to like change my opinion a little bit. So I had to listen to Blue and Gray a couple of times. First of all, it kind of gave me the feel of Sweet Night. That's the song that he did for Itaewon Class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Night. So when I first listened to it, it kind of gave me the feel of Sweet Night. And Sweet Night took a couple, you know, listens before I really like started to appreciate and love it. And so the same thing with Blue and Gray. But what I want to say is Blue and Gray is so depressive and melancholy and like you want to cry in the corner of your room as you listen to it, but it is phenomenal.
It
like the vocals of that song is just absolutely amazing. And to have a song that makes me want to sit in a corner and cry, not even cry myself to sleep, but just bawl over the shit show that 2020 has been. That's gonna be Blue and Gray. Like, I listening to it over and over again, like I get so emotional because I'm just like, this song makes you feel it. Like it just makes, because V said that in the interview, he said kind of got the name from the fact of gray skies and you feel blue because of the gray skies. And I was just like, yes, like, so I just want to say, like, if you don't like Blue and Gray, or you think it makes you too depressed, you need it. It's therapy on its own. And that's what I had to realize about that song, is V does an amazing job of making songs and writing lyrics that is therapy for the soul. And so that's what I want to say. I really appreciate it now. All right, you can go to performances.
Okay. Hold on, but I have to add on something.
Go for it.
Really quick. It shows how great he is as a songwriter. And I know we've joked about him and JK and they're never happening mixtapes. And if they would just actually release the fucking mixtape, because
he said that he can't release it until it's perfect. You know, he's a little bit of a perfectionist. He's become a perfectionist as he's gotten older.
Because Blue and Gray was supposed to be for his mixtape, and he said he had to rewrite it in Korean and add the different parts to it. Jen also said that Jen said hands down it's his favorite song. He said it was haunting. He said just hearing the demo alone, he was like, he loves the original version. He loves this version too, but he loves the original. And JK had also written Stay for his mixtape. So I'm just going to say it. V and JK, stop with the teas and just release them, okay? If this is what y'all are doing, and these are not, well, you know, if this is what you're doing, if this is any indication of what is happening on those mixtapes, just release them. I promise.
So I will say that I think that their mixtapes would have been more of a possibility if it wasn't the year of COVID. I think COVID put a full pause on them releasing their mixtape. Although I do think that 2021 is going to be more their year, and I hope that they kind of just push forward and do what they need to do. But I do think that COVID really, really put a pause on them even thinking about putting out their mixtapes.
I get it. I do, but yeah.
I agree with you though. Yeah, like just come on, because you know I've slowly become an appreciation of JK and his voice, because he was my least favorite at one time. But so I am excited for that. I'm definitely excited for that.
So what has been your favorite comeback performance?
Okay, so my favorite performance, and I think this is kind of a 360, a full like going around, is the performance that they did on James Corden.
We are in a complete agreement. We are in 100% agreement. They killed for Papa Roach.
And now, okay. And I watch all of them, I'm a YouTube addicted. And so I definitely watched all of their performances that they've done of Life Goes On. And we watched every performance of Dynamite. Even when I was sick and tired of the song, I just could not watch them perform Dynamite. But I have to say that of all of the performances that they've had since they released B, James Corden it was great. And the Life Goes On, where they're in separate rooms and they each person is going into a different room, and it's like the scene is changing, like they're doing a movie, and it's slowly changing and progressing to show that life is moving on, right? And I loved that. And then when they did Dynamite on Korean Air. Only friggin' BTS can do Dynamite at an airstrip. They're advertising Korea just with that performance alone.
And if you're thinking it was a set built at the freaking airstrip for Korean Air. They were actually on the airplane.
Yeah, they were actually, you could hear it when they were singing outside, the echo, right?
And
I was like, that was it was just amazing. And then
if you watch them together, like back to back, like they're supposed to be, like they broke up the performance for 2 separate nights. But if you just watch it on YouTube as one whole 7-minute thing, it's amazing. Like you see how it connects.
And James Corden released it like that. Like he released it as in Life Goes On and Dynamite on his YouTube channel. So the full flow of it was just absolutely phenomenal. But the cutest part was, besides them being on Korean Air, because I think that one thing that BTS does an amazing job of, and they've kind of taken the mantle? They've taken the mantle of doing this. It's really, really promoting Korean culture, right? And they continuously do that in every performance that they have. There's something there that is them showcasing their Korean culture. But I loved when Baby Moochie was sitting in Papa Moochie's seat.
Yes, and he was basically he was Corden Jr. I love that.
Yes, I don't know. That was the cutest thing ever.
Of course, you probably didn't watch the interview, but it was so cute.
I did watch the interview.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I did watch the interview.
The part that was so cute was when Jimin asked Papa Mochi, "Did you listen to our album?" And he tried to say it in English, and he got so nervous that he just went ahead and said it in Korean. And RM. But he was so embarrassed, and it was just like,
and then when he looked at RM like, "Come on, translate."
Like that wasn't random. Like, you asked the man, did he listen to our album? So, yeah.
But am I the only one that felt like that interview was also a little bit awkward? Was that just me?
I think it was a little awkward. I think it was just the tape delay and just all of that kind of stuff, which you can tell there was a tape delay, which kind of made it a little weird, but.
Okay,
you know.
because I felt like it was a little bit awkward, and I do want to say that James Corden did not listen to their album. He did not listen to their album. I really appreciate him. I know that he loves BTS, but I'm gonna need him to actually sit down and listen to B before he interviews them, so he can actually have an opinion on their album. Yeah.
But he was okay. So we're gonna have to wrap this up soon, unfortunately. But I will go back. He did say the right thing. Earlier, I brought it up. I love and I appreciate. I'm pulling a Justin Bieber here. I love and appreciate, or Kanye. I'm gonna let you finish, but I love and appreciate that they were nominated for a Grammy finally. They were even nominated in the right category for Best Pop Performance, but they were snubbed. They could have been nominated for Map of the Soul 7, which is the second highest. Map of the Soul 7 was great, but B came out too late for the nominations. I get that. Dynamite, though, should have been nominated for Record of the Year, Song of the Year.
I agree with you on that, but I do think that we have to acknowledge the fact that Map of the Soul 7, no matter how much of a fan you are of BTS, it was never going to be nominated for a Grammy. And the reason why is because majority of it is in Korean. And that is the reason why they released Dynamite as early as they did. They only released Dynamite in order to get into the nominations for the
Dynamite Grammy. Dynamite just barely made the Grammy nominations. And I get that.
They did it on purpose. It was strategic.
And when earlier when we talked about it, I told you that I didn't think Map of the Soul 7 would get nominated for that reason. It should have, but I understand why it didn't.
I can get with you on that, but I knew it wasn't going to be.
I'm not really upset about Map of the Soul 7. I get it. It should have been nominated, but I get why it wasn't. Dynamite, though, definitely deserved more nominations than what it got. So, yeah.
Oh my God! Can I play devil's advocate a little bit then? Dynamite was strategically released. It's the only English-speaking song that they have on their album, which proves the point that they only did the song in order to be nominated for a Grammy. It is the only song on the album that is not produced or written by BTS at all, or the BTS or Big Hit crew. So that's a proven fact. They achieved what they wanted to. They got nominated for a Grammy. I agree with you on the song.
It doesn't make it any, but to me that doesn't make it any less of a BTS song. Like Dynamite wouldn't have been what it is without someone singing, without someone else singing it.
See, and I don't think it's as much of a BTS song as the rest of the album, and it's and I feel like that's a proven fact of how it was released. Like, you released this song 2.5 months earlier than the actual album. When's the last time they actually did that? Have they ever in their whole career actually done that? So I get why they put out Dynamite. I get that, and I agree with you that it should have been nominated for more. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge the fact there is a reason why BTS did that. They did it for an absolute reason, and that was the only reason.
Okay, well, whatever the reason, I'm not arguing with their reasons. They're playing the game. They're playing the politics, and you have to do that in whatever business you're in. I don't care who you are. It's just like saying someone's going to release a movie in December so that it can get proper award season notice, rather than, if I have a great movie, I'm going to release it probably later on in the season rather than release it.
I appreciate that strategy. They were smart. They were smart.
So I have no problem with them releasing the song. I have no problem with them the song being all English. What I have a problem with, and it's still a BTS song, because Dynamite wouldn't have been Dynamite with someone else singing it. I don't care who wrote it. I don't care who produced it. They chose the song. They put their stamp on it. Now, what I have a problem with is the Grammys not giving it proper recognition. So I'm going to say what I said.
Bone?
Huh?
Don't you think that they threw? I felt that way with the fact that they were only nominated for one, because I think just like if the Weeknd got snubbed, I think that they would have gotten killed if they hadn't nominated Dynamite for at least one. I think they threw him a bone with nominating.
It's a bone. It's just like how Beyonce, she's up for 9. I would be surprised if she even got one. She still never won Album of the Year. So even with Lemonade, like, dude, come on, get at me. I'm saying what I said for the Weeknd in the article. Get at me about Dynamite. I want somebody to come at me about Dynamite and BTS being snubbed. And again, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I can pull up Rolling Stone articles, Billboard articles, LA Times articles where people are saying the same thing. The Grammys, as much as we love them, they fucking get it wrong more times than they get it right. So, all I'm going to say, though, is that life does go on. It will continue to go on.
And I think Dynamite will win.
BTS, it better. BTS will still continue to be great. I love them. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Next week, be sure to tune in when we talk about Dash and Lily. Yay! So excited. And until then, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Bye.